Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Nerds in Suits Live. It's Monday night. I'm here. I'm late. It's normal. It's a good day. It's a good day to be alive, everybody. I'm excited to see you all. And it's going to be a good Monday stream. So thank you to everybody for showing up. As per usual on Mondays, I'm doing the thing where I'm running around. I'm trying to get everything done in time. And I am going to be slicing up sheets of fake magic cards here on the stream as per usual, what we've seen before in the past, but I will stay engaged. First and foremost, how's everybody doing? I see Kyle. I see 123 Narnia. I see my boy Liam. I see Party J. I see Bucks in here. Looks like I see Lestrina in here. He's giving me a hard time. I see Carlson, Hans, and Franz, like a Bettenhausen in here. Looks like we got Scott Welsh, William Harold. It's a good group. Thanks everybody for showing up. Saturday was crazy, Bucks. It was a crazy one. Absolutely unbelievable day. Let's just cut these suckers out. Lot to say, a lot of thoughts, a lot of things going on as far as my life and the things that I'm considering. You know, you got the movie trivia Schmoedown, big developments in the Schmoedown, obviously Saturday, and now we are in free agency. We officially are in free agency as the spectacular has happened. And I will say to everybody here, I'm not going to make it a spoiler show. But I do have to warn everybody watching, this may end up being a bit of a spoiler show, only because I want to be able to answer questions honestly. The first thing to say is I have been having many conversations already about my impending free agency in the movie trivia Schmoedown, the manager that I may sign with, where I could possibly go, who has space, so on and so forth. So any questions you guys have about that, feel free to throw them in here. I'll do my best to answer. Also, as a quick reminder to everybody here, I will be doing Schmoedown backstage tomorrow with Rachel the Crusher Cushing. We will be talking Down Spectacular in a full post show. But at the same time we're doing that, we are going to be doing a little bit of a faction special preview, what we think of all the different various factions, where we think people are going to end up, so on and so forth. So I would love to know what you guys think here. Kevin Merton says, who's betting going to sign the max deal with LOL? I know, it's funny every once in a while. I'll talk about this with the Schmoedown. Like I remember one of the live events in LA, one of the first ones, like signing posters and stuff and being like, wow, I didn't have a jump shot. I couldn't run fast. I wasn't the strongest guy, but it is funny and it is sweet that Christian's created this thing where us movie trivia nerds can actually feel like athletes for a quick second. So it is hilarious because I love that aspect of sports. I absolutely love following free agency and who signs with who and, cap stuff and all that. It's just one of the best. Sunshine here says Dungeon is a good spot for this offseason with no obvious keepers and a high pick. Crazy events as 123 Narnia. Yeah, lots and lots and lots and lots to talk about. So first thing I'm going to say to everybody who's watching this video, do me a favor, guys, and hit that thumbs up button. Let's get some likes on this video here. I will be checking those Streamlabs and super chats throughout the show, reading out any questions you guys have. If you have any more, long-winded questions for me as far as my thoughts on this next season or anything else in my life, feel free. This probably will be a little bit more of a Schmoedown-centric show tonight, only because it's such a big thing going on in the world. And as much as 10 minutes later, it is such a big thing going on in my life. And now we are officially into that part of the season where I'm not the only one who's thinking about this. Now everybody's locked into thinking about free agency. All the phone calls and text messages going on from managers to players. There was some shit that was stirred up this morning. First thing when I woke up, I saw Sean Sullivan calling me out for the stuff that I said on Action Guys on Sunday about him and Adam Witt and the caliber of Star Wars player they were. And it's funny, I didn't even say anything about their actual gameplay. I was literally talking about my claim about Star Wars and training in 60 days and all that. And I just said I was like, maybe you can't win in 60 days, but maybe you could at least be a contender. Maybe you could at least get to the level of like an Adam Witt or a Sean Sullivan. That's exactly what I said, right? But everybody's getting their panties in a twist that I was insulting people. And it's like, no, I just pick players that don't have a lot of wins and are not ranked in the top 3, That's kind of all I was doing. I was doing it offhand too. It's no shade to those guys. I mean, I think those guys are terrific. I'm a big fan of Sully, big fan of Witt, and hopefully they have really good seasons. So I don't know. That Star Wars stuff though, that 60-day claim that I made, it definitely seems ballsier than I thought it was at one time. Just given the nature of that division, what I've seen, looks like it's going to be a little harder to compete in that division than I thought. So yes, it's going to be great. There will be a lot of good storylines. Scott Welsh says, I think Gucci showed that the super team approach didn't work like it does in the NBA. I don't know. I mean, there have been some successful super teams, Above the Line was a super team. That was the Shire Wolves. That was a super team. There have been some, but and honestly, I don't know. I mean, Roca and Dan obviously didn't, I think, perform at the level that people hoped they would. They had to use a free-for-all win cash in to get a title shot, which they won. But other than that one, they just weren't able to get it done, which it's, I think, more of a testament to the quality of the rest of the league than it is to their play. It's not like they really played badly in the matches they lost, but it does show that just because you have maybe player 1 and player 2 on the all-time list, you're not going to just automatically clean up. There's a lot of good players out there, and it's only getting harder. It's only getting worse. So we're all doing what we can to get better, to prepare for this thing we call the Movie Trivia Schmoedown. I've obviously got my methods that I'm working with. I've got the wonderful Nerds and Suits team here. We do the Wednesday Schmoedown hangout study session every single week. And actually, once a month, I randomly select one of the patrons at the Diamond tier. That's patreon.com/nerdsandsuits. And I do a one-on-one 5-round match. Last time was against my guy, AJ Lancaster. We did that. And, it was a good match. It was a lot of fun. AJ gave it everything. And it went my way that day. But this next one, which is going to be this Wednesday, is a one-on-one head-to-head matchup against call sign #Ladies Night John Lestrina. Now, this guy shows no respect. He comes in there. I've seen this guy when he's in the ring, when he's doing character work. Lestrina is an absolute beast of trash talk. But you know what? That's stuff doesn't get in my head. Lestrina's gonna have to come with cold, hard movie trivia. And I have spotted him. The Fast and the Furious slice on the wheel. He's going to be able to put that on the wheel if he wants to, because normally, obviously, there is no Fast and the Furious slice. But for his sake, it's his favorite. It's probably helpful for me, obviously, to have the landmine of running into Lucas Black again. And I know you, Megs. I know that the Nerds and Suits question writing team is anticipating that if that does happen, I can guarantee I'm going to be running into some Lucas Black questions. It'll probably be 4 Lucas Black questions in the category, honestly. Call sign #Ladies Night in here, just going at me. 1, 2, 3 Narnia. I think we will allow spoilers here, talking about Spectacular. I just don't think that it's very realistic to not do that. So if you have things you want to say about Spectacular, go right ahead. I think that's the move. But it should be a lot of fun. If anybody here is not a patron, you've considered becoming one, there's a lot of really cool perks that we offer at the Diamond tier here on Nerds and Suits. So it's the $25 tier, and there's obviously Studio Diary, in which I show you guys once every 2 weeks. I do an hour-long unlisted stream kind of showing you the new stuff I'm writing, some of the progress of the album, the songs as they're coming and developing. Obviously, I did that one last weekend. Not yesterday, but last Sunday, and that was one of the best ones. I think I had a really good time with that one. I got some nice messages from you guys about some of the stuff that I was writing there. I think it's coming along nicely. There's actually a new thing that I kind of started writing this last week that I probably will continue to develop, and maybe I'll show you guys on the next one of those. I'm going to put these sheets away for a minute here. So, but yes, if you guys are interested in seeing that and how that stuff develops, become a patron today. You also obviously are entered into the Schmoedown hang that I'm talking about, where we do that every single Wednesday. They're 1 hour and change study sessions. And then once every 4, I do a one-on-one, which is a cool one. Tyler here says, already seems like Dan is in talks with Kaiser. Interesting. Okay. Now, the other thing that we are offering here on the Nerds in Suits Patreon is something I'm going to talk about a little later in the show. And some of you guys were asking about this. I got some messages from you on Patreon because, as many of you know, that's kind of the way that I run the Nerds in Suits Patreon. I do one-on-one interaction with you guys on a week-to-week basis. I try to check in with any of you that want to continue to have me kind of check on you with your goal setting. And if I don't hear back from you in the week, I usually give it a week off. Because I don't want to be bothering anybody in their personal life. Obviously, I'm a content creator, and you guys are wonderfully supportive of what I do, and I would never want to invade your privacy. So something that I came up with and I started talking about last week was the idea to do these one-on-one sessions. And I am going to talk about them a little more later in the show today. But just as a quick reminder to everybody who is interested in those, stay tuned later in the show. I will kind of talk about the actual process and setting those up, the dates and all as well. So things that are going on and have gone on here on the Nerds and Suits channel. in the last week, I have these headphones on, but they're completely unnecessary because I'm not playing anything. I'm not listening to anything. So I'm going to take them off because I don't like that thing when I can't hear. When I can't hear as I'm talking, I know people do it and it's normal, but unless you have to, it just feels sort of, I don't know. It's just weird. So things that have gone on. I did this interview this last week with Andrew Guy. Posted it here on the channel. Andrew did the interview with me last week. We posted that last Friday. That was a lot of fun. That was one of the I think that was one of the coolest episodes of the show we've done. Not to say by any means that I think I'm as interesting as many of the guests that I've brought on, but it was cool to be able to do that with Drew. I thought he did a really great job with those questions. I was very impressed with his preparation and his ability to listen and really stay with that conversation. And it really put in perspective for me some of the things that I had gone through in my life as a creator and kind of some of the things that I've wanted to do and some of the things I'm going to continue to do. And it was interesting when talking through years and years and years of being creative, what he said at the end, which is it kind of seems like you've been fighting against playing music your whole life. Why do you think that is? And I had to think about it a little bit. Like, what was the thing that had ever sort of prevented me from wanting to continue to do music and really do music seriously. And so it was a question I started asking myself. And so, that kind of brings me to obviously the big title here on the big title here on this video tonight, which is that last night was the first album session. So I went out last night to go and record guitar and vocals on one of the songs, the song called, they're tentatively calling it I'm Sorry for Tonight. It's either that or there's a couple other working titles. But some of you guys, those of you that have been in the studio sessions, or some of you guys that obviously came to my show a few weeks ago, heard that song and know it. It'll be one of the first songs I release. It's a song that I really like playing. I really enjoy it. And we went last night and I tracked acoustic guitar for that song. I think I got all of the bass acoustic guitar done for it. Not bass guitar, but like the skeleton acoustic guitar basically for that song wrapped. And then I went in and I did like a 2-hour vocal session trying to sing it. And I had forgotten what tracking is like. It takes a lot. It takes a lot out of you. It's a pretty exhausting process, especially tracking vocals. It's funny because like when you think about like a really famous song, let's just say that it was like Boys of Summer by Don Henley, and you think about if you were going to go try to track the vocal to that song, you'd like you'd see in a vocal booth, you'd be standing in front of a mic and, you'd be, okay, take 3, right? And you'd be like, nobody's on the road, nobody's on the beach. And you'd kind of go through the whole song. Well, what happens is you most of the time, at least this is how David works, you go in and you do 2 of those, maybe 3 of those tops, full takes, and you're not even really warmed up yet. You haven't hit your stride. You haven't gotten into your groove yet. And then you start going section by section. And it's interesting because the whole process of recording vocals, it's not that different from recording guitar. With guitar, there is a certain amount of like personality or energy that comes with when you play. So when you listen back to it, it's like, that doesn't have enough energy. Can you play it a little more like this? And maybe it's the exact same part. It's just played, you're playing harder, or you're playing with kind of a different swagger to the rhythm or something. Singing a vocal part is kind of the same thing. It's interesting. Like, again, if we're talking about that Nobody's on the Road line in Boys of Summer, the way David would do is he'd throw it on a loop. And so I'd be there in a vocal booth and I'd be like, nobody's on the road, nobody's on the beach. 3. Nobody's on the road. And I would just keep singing it, right? I would just keep looping that one phrase, and I would do it 15 times maybe. And the goal would sort of be to change up your performance a little bit each time. But really the point is to try to think about the words you're saying and how you're saying them and what they mean in the context of the song, and then try to kind of sing that, try to kind of say that, right? And so that by the end of it, once you're done, you have kind of adjusted to accommodate what the actual performance of the song is supposed to get out. So it becomes, on some level, kind of like an acting exercise, because you listen back and you can actually hear the difference. You can hear like, that's a much more emotional take, or that's a more truthful take, or there's much more heart in that take, or something like that. So that's definitely one of the coolest parts of tracking, is kind of seeing that come together. And we spent about 5 hours last night. We did all the acoustic guitar and I did the full vocal, and I will have to go through and do all the editing now on the vocals to make sure that everything we got is what we want. But it definitely was really cool, very exciting for me. Puts me on track here to get the first song out by January, which is what I'm hoping for. I know originally I wanted the album out kind of by now, but it does seem like it'll be gradually songs through the spring, and then probably the album will drop in the probably towards the end of spring. Hopefully, as we're all kind of getting out of the worst part of the pandemic and we're getting back to some kind of normal life, and maybe even I can release the album and I can schedule some kind of because I got to be honest with you guys, even if I broke even on this, even if I didn't make like any money because of the cost of tickets versus the cost of airfare, if we get to like June, July, August, then it feels safe. And I feel like people can go to live events and people are getting people are getting vaccinated, and it actually feels okay. I wouldn't even rule out the possibility of booking a four city like little mini tour over the course of like 2 weeks or something like that. Like a Friday, maybe like a Thursday and a Saturday or something like that. And literally taking my guitar, booking some venues in major cities and flying around. And I would do it fully with the understanding that I would probably lose money on the thing just because of airfare and hotels, but I would just do it so that I could go out there, I could release the album, and I could actually play. And maybe if I was going to major cities, some of you guys could come out. So it's something I've thought a lot about, but it does feel, I'm really excited about it. I'm really excited about this album. I can't really express that to you more than you guys than I have. I think it feels like a special kind of moment in my life. It feels like it's really, I'm crossing into this next threshold as an artist. Not necessarily even in the quality of what I'm doing, just more in I just believe in what I'm doing. I believe in it. I'm really excited. I believe it's of good quality. I believe I have an understanding of music, and that gets me really excited. It's cool to have an idea, and so many of the ideas I'm having now, I'll get that idea, and then I'll start to kind of put it together, and it'll sound just the way that I envisioned it. Like a lot of the melodies I've been coming up with, it's off the back of me actually imagining that melody. Like I come up with it while I'm in the shower or something like that, and then I go pick up my guitar and I try to actually play the thing I thought of, and it's sounding like that, which is pretty awesome. Phoenix here says sounds like a plan. Megs, that's awesome. Miss touring with my buds. It was a great experience. As reading comics while black. Yes, I toured a tiny bit in my early 20s. I didn't really do much touring as I got older. Most of my time was spent in LA. But it would certainly be an interesting experience to see kind of how we would do that. And maybe what I would even do is if I was going to go to major cities and do 4 shows like that, under the impression that I wouldn't. Maybe we roll that actually into Action Live, which was the thing that Drew and I were going to do. We were going to do 3 shows in major cities, and it was just before pandemic happened that we had hit that threshold on our Patreon to do it. And of course, we haven't been able to do it yet. So maybe Drew and I go on the road actually, and then instead, maybe I play the opening set or something like that, and we play. Who knows? I'll have to figure that out. But certainly something to think about. Certainly could be a lot of fun. I look forward to the day that we can all get the fuck out of this. And Lauren says, New Orleans is a great place to live music and to play live music and have fun. Just saying, I've never been to NOLA. I've always wanted to go. Come to Miami, says Kevin Merton, another huge city. I mean, these are great places. I've also never been to Miami. I've traveled all the fuck over the place. Never been to New Orleans or Miami. Those are probably the 2 biggest U.S. cities I've not been to, actually. Come to think of it. So yeah, it could be really, really, really fun. I hope to get back to it. I think 2021 is going to be a much, 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 much better year. So with that in mind, I want to talk a little bit about some of the goal setting stuff I mentioned. There's a lot of cool stuff happening this next year, and I want to talk about a lot of it on the show today. But one of the things I do want to make sure I talk to you guys about is this one-on-one thing. So, I mentioned it last week, but I'll quickly reiterate. Back when I was doing a lot of stuff with AfterBuzz TV and Popcorn Talk, one of my great mentors, one of my close friends is Kevin Undergaro. And he was somebody who was incredibly influential in my life and means the world to me. And Kevin and Maria were extraordinarily generous with their support and their belief in young talent. A lot of Drew and I and our start as hosts came doing work there at Popcorn Talk. And he did shows there, Unproduced Table Read. And I did obviously Action Movie Anatomy and AfterBuzz TV. And I even, did interviews and stuff for Black Hollywood Live. So Kevin used to, and I shouldn't say used to, because again, it's just been a weird year. AfterBuzz is not currently operating, or at least in studio shows. But he always would do this thing at the end of the year with Maria, where they would kind of do a goal setting. This is what we want out of the next year. And with that in mind, he started to offer that to all of the hosts, as he would call the kids at AfterBuzz TV. And I think he would take up to 100 signups or something like that of hosts that wanted a one-on-one, like I think 10 or 15 minutes you'd sign up for. And he would kind of give you a cheat sheet. These are all the things that these are kind of my, like, my general beliefs. These are the way, right? Because it was always career one-on-ones. You'd sign up, you'd come in, you'd do a one-on-one, he'd kind of listen to what you were interested in, and he'd give you some advice. He would do his best. And it was always great. I always loved it. I really looked forward to it. And I always really admired it because it was an enormous amount of Kevin's time. I mean, he was giving hours and hours and hours and hours of his time, just different people listening to their stories and trying to be helpful. And so with that in mind, I have a relatively small audience here on Nerds and Suits, but it is something that I would like to offer to the patrons here of Nerds and Suits. So that is patreon.com/nerdsandsuits that is the actual, Patreon location. And I think the way I'm doing it is that at the diamond tier, so that's the same tier that we do the Schmoedown study sessions. It's the same tier that we do the studio diary. I'm going to offer a 15-minute one-on-one to anybody at that diamond tier that wants to take me up on it. And I think I'm going to try to schedule it so that it is still kind of in the same vein which Kevin would do, which is you come in with something specifically that you want to work on. So in that case, it was career, and it was usually hosting, something related. But I think because I'm not qualified to be a therapist, that's I didn't go to school for that. I don't know how to work through any kind of, like, if somebody comes in and there's like, I'm deeply depressed, I don't know what to do about it. That's going to be hard for me to do much about in 15 minutes. I tell my therapist the same thing. But if somebody comes in and they say, I have this goal that I want to work on, I have this thing at work that I want to try to work through, the kind of thing that I think by just kind of being like a sounding board, I would be able to listen. I'd be able to help work through with you. I would like to offer that. It's something that I'm excited about. And so I mentioned it last week, and I'm going to move forward with this idea. So everybody at the diamond tier, I'm going to offer 15 minutes one-on-one. I know a handful of you that have reached out. Look, times are tough right now. It's the holiday season. I know a lot of creators are out there trying to hustle and make a living. And if you are interested in doing that, but you're a patron at a lower level and you can't afford, I totally get it. Send me a message if you want to try to work with me on that. I will try as best I can to make my time available, because I don't want to shut out any of you that are supportive of me on any level if I'm able to. So what I'm going to do is I'll be doing this in the days following Christmas. So I'm going to be doing these one-on-ones in the week between Christmas and New Year's. Should give you guys, anybody who's interested in doing it, a little bit of time to get ready. So next Monday is the 21st. And I believe I will be doing this the weekend. Should be week or the weekend? Let me ask you guys. If I was going to do this, and let's pretend it was either weekdays in the evenings. So I would probably find a couple hours between like Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday evening, or afternoons on like Sunday, just like a Sunday. There'd be like one Sunday afternoon that I would try to get everybody in. What would work for you guys best? I think for me, if I think about it, spacing it out is probably the best thing to do over 2 days, in case there is a lot of interest. Because obviously, I'm going to be offering 30 minutes to everybody at that double diamond and above tier. So that's the $50 or infinity tier, which is the $100 tier. Anybody who's either of those, I'll offer 30 minutes one-on-one. But as far as anybody else, I'll be offering 15 minutes one-on-one to work through anything in your life. If it's a career thing, if it's a personal problem, it's something that you think that you could use an extra set of eyes and ears to help you discuss and come up with a good strategy on. I'm going to do my best, and I will kind of send out a little bit of a primer to all of you that want to do it, so I can kind of give you an idea of what it's like and what I think is, in terms of appropriate, the type of stuff we would work with. Because again, as I mentioned, there is this one difference between what Kevin did and what I'm doing, which is he was specifically talking to people about their hosting careers, hosting or acting. And I am trying to kind of offer it a little bit more on a personal level. If there's something that you're interested in doing. And I don't want to find myself in a situation where I've offered, but I'm not able to help, because I think that's not helpful to anyone. But if you are interested in doing that, again, everybody at the diamond tier, 15 minutes, everybody double diamond or above, I will be offering 30 minutes one-on-one. And I think right now, I'm going to pull up the calendar here just to see, but I believe it'll be the week between Christmas and New Year's, I think, is the best week for me to do this. It's when, the world is the slowest. We'll be kind of in that week getting ready to start 2021, which I think is a perfect time for us to do this. I think right now, the Sunday of Christmas weekend, the 28th, would be a great day for it. Or I actually think there would be great time to do this on Wednesday, the 30th in the evening. So maybe we space it out. Maybe we space it out and we do something like We space it out. We do something like a little bit of time on Tuesday the 29th, Wednesday the 30th, and Sunday afternoon the 27th. So maybe 27th, 29th, 30th. Let's shoot for that. December 27th, December 29th, December 30th, the afternoon on the Sunday, and it'll be early evening my time. So that's going to be like between, let's say, like 5:30 and 7:30 on Wednesday and Thursday. Those are the times I'm going to shoot for. I will send out a message to all of you. But if you are listening and you're interested in doing this, keep that in mind. Those are going to be the times that I'm going to offer it. And I'm excited to work with you guys on this. Again, I hope I can help. I don't 100% know what we'll get out of it, but I'm trying to do more stuff like this because I think it's exciting and I want to do more stuff like this. So if you want to be on this kind of journey with me, I welcome it. I'm pumped about it. So other stuff going on here on Nerds and Suits. I'm not 100% who is going to be on Great Conversation this week. Things got kind of a little bit mixed around last week, so I ended up doing the one with Drew and myself in place of a different one. And now with the holidays, people's schedules are getting a little more packed in. But I do have a couple ideas here, and some of those names that I've mentioned to you guys that are up and coming, they're still up and coming on the show. There's a handful of people kind of in the Schmoedown space that I want to reach out to. Some of those that I've never spoken to, at least on my own show. Some of those that have been guests on Action Guys that I think would be a lot of fun to talk to. And so I'll keep working on that. That's what's going on there. Schmoedown. Let's talk Schmoedown here a little bit, guys, because I think this is one of the topics that a lot of you guys kind of want to hear about. We're obviously now into free agency. There's going to be more discussion about this tomorrow on Backstage, and this is going to be an ongoing story for the next several months. It was a crazy Schmoedown spectacular on Saturday. Huge things happened, huge turns, and now here I am getting ready to go back in to season 8, as an unrestricted free agent, to try to get my title back, to try to win the team's title, and not to try to win the Star Wars title in 60 days. As has been shouted from the rooftops, and as I've been reminded of by many, many people, it is just not something people think is possible to be done in 60 days. Now, I believe that there is some contention that you could get if you put a certain amount of time into it. I don't even think that 60 days is an outrageous claim. I think it's probably, to be honest with you guys, kind of reasonable. I think if you were somebody that has that kind of background with preparation, who really understands how to do it, I think you could probably get pretty far. I don't know how far necessarily, but I believe you could. But I'm not going to be doing that. I'm not going to be doing that because I have my sights set on other belts. I have my sights set on other divisions. I have my sights set on teammates and people that I want to work with. I've got managers in mind that I have spoken to, all people who seem very exciting. Liam Gilpin here says, I think being contender is possible in 60 days. Look, it absolutely is, guys. There's just not that many. It's funny. I saw people on Twitter being like, oh, Ben missed those questions on Backstage. I put myself on the spot with no preparation. I'm not saying I'm a Star Wars expert here, but I guarantee in 60 days, I would have known the answer to all those questions. None of those questions were hard. I've watched all the Star Wars matches. I know what questions they ask. I know the kind of stuff you need to know. Now, there are some things, like when Damon got that Bob Anderson question in the spectacular match. And again, guys, apologies for spoilers. If you haven't seen this already and it's ruining it for you, I apologize. I would recommend going and getting the pay-per-view now if you can. It was a fantastic spectacular, a crazy 9 hours, one that was definitely a lot of fun. But you know, the Bob Anderson question that he got, for instance, is a good example of something that you can't really just know that. You can't just know that because you read like a visual dictionary. Like that's something that I texted Alex and he said he knew it from the special features on the Lord of the Rings because he also was part of Lord of the Rings. Which I was like, that's kind of the definition of what, when you say like context is given to you by other sources, you know? So I don't know a lot about regular movies because I've just studied all of the data. I've studied a lot, but the truth is I've just watched a ton of movies. I love movies. So I know a lot about a lot of different directors. I know a lot about a lot of different times in movies. And that has all kind of weaved together to give me a frame of reference so that when a question gets asked, I can use kind of deductive reasoning to get to the answer because I just know a good amount about movies. That's how Alex is with Star Wars. That's how many of them are about Star Wars. And it is, you know, lifelong knowledge that comes from having the toys, as Sean Sullivan said to me this morning on Twitter, you know, having the toys and having conversations with your friends. And I get all that. But I do still think if you're an expert at this sort of thing, at preparing, if you have a system that works for you and you stick to the system and you are regimented with it and you are stuck to it, I think you can get there. I mean, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say. I've done I've done my thing. I've done my thing with this before. I've improved in so many categories. I just know how to do it. Dan Collins says you essentially get 5 days per film to know it inside and out with some decent study tactics and the memorization techniques. It really isn't that unrealistic. I agree. I mean, you get an adequate amount of time per movie. The thing that gets interesting about it is watching the movies over and over again will get you so far, because like you'll be watching a movie and you'll see, let's say a character in a scene or a planet or like a moment, and you'll think like, okay, what's the name of that character? What race is that? You'll think about all the questions they ask about like the order of the words, who's the first character you see, all that kind of shit. And you kind of have to watch the movies and mark every single piece of that down, which I totally get. But then there are also those moments where it's like, if you're in a 5-round match and that's how you've prepared, how are you going to do the speed round? Like you're just not going to have the innate ability to keep up in a speed round setting. I mean, there's just so many things that I think to be truly the best, to be Alex Damon, I think it's much harder. I love the idea of the challenge. It sounds like an unbelievably cool thing to try to do. It's just, I think I had to kind of revise my statement just a little bit. Cole says, hi, Ben. How you doing, Cole? Good to see you. All right, so some of the other things we got going on. So this is kind of a fun thing. I wrote the very first draft of, I shouldn't say I did. I wrote the first draft of a song that corresponds to the first draft that Drew and I wrote of our script. And in our script, there is a character and he has a daughter. And there are scenes in which this character sings to his daughter. He writes songs. And I won't say too much more about it, but that is one of the pieces of the script we wrote. And so one of the things Drew and I has talked about is this really cool idea of maybe the music in the show, if we were to sell it, would be music I could write. Potentially maybe even perform the music or something like that. Maybe the actor could lip sync to it. And so I put together this idea for this song. Kind of came to mind as I mentioned, this melody came to me in the shower the other day, and I picked up my guitar and I was like, I wonder if I can figure out how to play this song. I wonder if this song that I imagined in my mind, this melody would work. So I picked it up and I learned it. I taught myself this thing, and then I wrote some lyrics. I don't think it's the best thing in the world, but I definitely think it has kind of a cool vibe to it. So I was pretty excited about that. I was thinking about maybe playing you guys the chorus here at the end of the show tonight, because I think it's kind of fun, and it's written from the perspective of this father singing to his daughter, which is interesting. I'd never done that before. I'd never been like, I'm going to just take a fake character in a story and write a song from their perspective, which is what I know soundtrack writers have to do all the time. That's like, Resnick has done that for the Goo Goo Dolls 100 times now. A lot of these guys that write songs for movies all the time, they do that. So maybe if I don't play it tonight, I'll play it for you guys on the next Studio Diary. But it's kind of good. I think it's got a cool chorus. I was happy with the chorus. But so getting back to Schmoedown stuff here for a second, because I know there are a lot of questions and inquiries. This next year is going to be very highly competitive, and I think one of the things that's really interesting to look at is there are a number of competitors here. I'm going to read this really quickly from Patricia Metz here. $5 Streamlab here from Patricia. The Outlaw is trying to take the Finstock Exchange. He will slowly take over the role of manager. He wanted to be a player manager before Christian said no. This is the way. He'll be able to take over a faction for himself. Then he will ask Dan back. Maybe. The interesting thing about that is that being a player manager, I think being a player manager, there's a lot more to it than people realize. I think the idea that managing is like something you'd be good at because you enjoy doing it in a match. Like I really enjoyed managing Dan, and I think I made a big impact on Dan's game, and I think he did really well. I think he would have done well anyway, but there was decision making and preparation that was helpful. I felt good about what I added to Dan's game. That being said, I think that actually running a faction and understanding the nuances, like the deep nuances of, because there's multiple layers and levels to Schmoedown, right? And it requires a lot of you to focus on all those things. So I would say performance is one of the big layers, right? John's got that locked down. He's one of the best performers ever. He's one of the OG, the GOATs. He might. I would never want to say he is or isn't the best ever, because obviously I'm biased. I believe Andrew Guy's the best performer ever, but you can't take away from Roka. You can't take away from his accomplishments there. Then there's the trivia aspect, which is your preparation, your studying. Then there's the political aspect. of working with the other players and the other managers to make sure that you kind of stay in good standing with the league, that, you know, what types of matches does Christian give you, the matchups, because not everything is so tournament driven, you know, and even with the tournament, right? Even with the tournament, there is some amount of seeding and bracketing and all that is a little bit arbitrary. And so there's a lot of things like that you kind of have to pay attention to and really think about. And you have to be able to think about something bigger than just yourself. It has to be more than just your own legacy. So I think it's a very fun idea to be a player manager, but I don't actually know. I mean, I don't know that John wouldn't be good at it. I just don't know how good John would be at it. And I would say the same of myself. I think I would be a great player manager. Like, I really think I understand that stuff. I think I could run a faction like nobody's business. But I also know one of the big things for me in the Schmoedown is that I love to be the star of it. I love to focus on it and try to get better. And I, you know, so I work alone kind of in that regard, where I really like to be that person. And that doesn't do that well with being a little bit more selfless for your faction. So I do wonder how he would do. I do wonder how John would do. I wonder how many people would do. But I appreciate that, Patricia, for that Streamlab there. It's a fun idea. John trying to muscle his way into running a faction. But yeah, so, you know, there's a lot of conversations happening with a lot of managers. I can't reveal kind of what I'm doing or where I'm going yet. A lot of people have, you know, guests have put in their suggestions where they think I'm going to go. You guys are welcome to put some in the chat here. Anybody wants to put one on Streamlabs or Super Chat, I will read it out. I feel very good about my prospects. I had a really interesting conversation pretty recently. One, with a manager who I like a lot. Two, with a teammate that I like a lot. And I just think I've got some good ideas to put it all together to be in the position that I want to be towards the end of the year. And you guys will start to catch wind, I think, more of that as things develop, as the season goes on. So here's a question for some of you guys that are Schmoedown fans. Nikki here says, I'm so excited for the Den next season. I love Kate. Your interview with her was one of my faves. She's terrific. Kate's one of my favorites. Great person. Spoke to Kate on the phone earlier today, actually. Really like Kate a lot. You know, who do you guys think, if you had to go through all the rosters and all the factions, who do you expect is going to be the number one overall pick? Like, who do you think isn't going to get retained by a faction but will go first in the draft? I'm curious what you guys think as viewers of the show, because I think there are some decisions that we all know as far as, you know, who's going to retain who. There's some decisions that I think we assume, you know, like, for instance, given one, and again, guys, we are spoiling Schmoedown stuff here. So if you haven't watched Spectacular, I would recommend you go watch it. But for instance, it would be very hard for me to imagine, given what happened at Spectacular, that Roxy doesn't know who her three are. I would think that Roxy for sure knows her three. You know, I think you figure obviously Shannon 100% seems like she knows her roster, right? She's declared her roster. So I think there are some factions where you're like, they're ruled out. We now know there is no ninth faction. There are only 8 factions. The Droogs are gone. So, okay, that means that you now have 3 people locked up on one roster, 3 locked up on the next, another roster gone. So now there are 18 people to worry about on 6 other rosters. Now, some of those rosters, you figure you almost would be 100%, right? Like, I don't know this because it hasn't been declared, but I would have to assume Koi locks up the Kid and Bibiani, right? I think most people would assume that, given how good they've been. So you figure 2 people there. You look over at Swag, you think, okay, they had an embarrassment of riches. They have 5 players that they like. So you would have to think Paul Oyama, Lon Harris, and Chandru maybe get retained. That's, you know, maybe you think that. Maybe Ace. Ace didn't have as good of a showing, obviously. There's Liz was very good. So, I mean, I think if you go down the line, there's a lot of places that we can all guess, you know, as far as who would get retained. There are definitely some places that I think we're all curious where people would go, because I for instance, I don't know who's going to be on The Usual Suspects. I don't know that. There are a lot of things that I'm kind of, you know, question marking a little bit. You know, what's Kaiser going to do? You know, who's Kate going to retain? Is she going to keep Lon and Paul? Where's Goddard going to go? Is he going to stay with Kate? You know, there are a lot of big question marks. And then you have players like Marisol. And I'm seeing here in the chat that Jeremy Miller here is suggesting, I think Marisol is the biggest wild card in free agency. You know, she's really good. I think Marisol is a really terrific player. And It would be exciting to see what she does, but I don't know where she's going to end up. I also wonder, it makes you wonder, right, about the whole class of player who, because like every season, this is the same thing that happens in like a fantasy sport, for instance. You've got that top tier of running backs, like let's say it's fantasy football, you have like the first round, second round. And so you look at the draft and you're like, these guys are the top picks. Well, after the 1 year, when somebody comes in as that hot player and they're like for sure the number 4 overall pick, if they have a bad year and they just like don't perform at all of a sudden the next year they drop to the 3rd round or the 4th round or sometimes even lower. It does make you wonder if some of these players who were really high this year in the draft, I mean, Tom and Paul respectively, I think she picked them back to back, maybe, 9th and 10th or something like that. Makes you wonder, where's Paul Pressing going to go? Where's Tom going to go? Do those guys both go in the draft? Do they both get retained? You look at some of the other players there that were in the first round, and it makes you wonder, like, are some players going to vault into the first round? What's Gucci going to do? I feel like Gucci's got way less options than he's had in the past. So I'm curious to see what he's going to end up doing. So people in the chat here talking, I'm going to read a few things out. I want to just check one thing really quickly. I'm going to read a few of these in the chat out. So we've got, let's see. PC says, shake everything up, a whole new Den team. Okay, so maybe the Den should go after all new folks. Let's see here. 123 Narnia suggests, I could see Kate choosing Marisol and trading to Shannon for something. That's an interesting thought. Okay, so maybe, so Kate would have, are you saying Kate picking Marisol or Kate retaining Marisol? Because Kate picks ahead of Shannon, so Kate could draft Marisol, certainly, and then trade her to Shannon, because it seems like Shannon really, wants her people. Party J asks, where would Dan go? Dan Collins says, I mean, Dan is the biggest wild card for sure. It would be fun to see him go into the draft. I mean, there's no way Dan Murrell's going to go in the draft. That'd be insane. If Dan Murrell went into the draft, if he chose to not be retained by anyone, he just said, I'm gonna go enter the draft and just be drafted. Like, that's the crazy power that the players have, right? So Dan would have to realize that if he went into the draft, who has the number 1 overall pick? Is the number 1 overall pick Kaiser? I think number 1 overall pick's Kaiser. So if Dan really wanted to make the dungeon insane, Dan would go into the draft. That's a crazy thought. If Dan was like, I want to go play for the dungeon. I want the dungeon to be the best faction. I'm going to enter the draft. You can retain 3 other players. You'll draft me number 1. Can you imagine? Because it would have to be, or for instance, it would, maybe. No, that's the only scenario I can think of. It would just help Kaiser so much if he did that. Devanshu Sinha says it's Kaiser. So then Buck says draft order: Droogs, Dungeon, Suspects, Den, Mercs, Exchange, Stars, Swag, Corruption. Liam says, would it make a difference? Would it make difference if he signs with Kaiser versus going first overall? It would make a huge difference. See, if he signs with Kaiser, Kaiser has to use one of his 3 picks. He wasn't to sign with Kaiser, and he didn't sign with anybody, but he knew he wanted to go to the dungeon. He could enter the draft knowing Kaiser would get him first overall. Kaiser could retain 3 other players. Dan would go to Kaiser. That's a crazy play, but I don't know if he's any interested in playing for Kaiser at all. So Jeremy Miller says Roxy needs an IG player more than she needs Marisol, in my opinion. I got to say, when you talk about championship pedigree, Alex Damon's had the belt for over 2.5 years. I know he's not a top flight IG competitor yet, but he had a pretty good showing. He played pretty well this year. I don't know, guys. Alex Damon absolutely might just be her IG player. We'll see what she does. Yeah, right, Dan, I agree. It's kind of a wild thought. He would have to want to play for Kaiser, though. That's the only way that would work. Joaquim says Kaiser can basically retain 4 players because he has the first pick. Right. But the thing is, the only way that he would know who he's retaining is because obviously if Dan's in the draft, you pick Dan, right? That goes without saying. Yeah. So there's some ideas. In fact, anybody who would be in the draft that would be at that level, anybody that would want to play with Kaiser, who's at that level, could pull that same move. That's a pretty a wild idea. Come to think of it. So 1-3 Darnia, isn't Alex close to a number one contender shot with 3 wins? I mean, Alex is quite good. I thought Alex he showed a lot of promise in Intergeekdom, and I really think that when it comes to that sort of thing, having the study habits, having those locked in study habits really go a long way. Ronnie Be Good here donated $5 on the Streamlabs. Big salute to you, Ronnie, and a tie straighten. Do you know how the draft will work for Kevin Smith and Chris Jericho, since it seems they won't play for other managers? You know, it's an interesting question, Ronnie, and I think the way that I would answer that question is that the league is better off with Smith and Jericho playing. So Christian is like, it makes the league look better. Those guys have fun doing it. We're in a good position with those guys playing. And ultimately, just like you would if you were running any sports league, you want to give the biggest stars in the league as much as you can. You want to give them the spotlight, right? So it's advantageous for Christian to play Jericho and Smith. And so it's an interesting thing where if they were to get drafted by someone else, so be it. But I think Christian is interested in them playing, so they will get matches. And so it's the kind of thing where if they're like, if I get drafted by someone else, I'm going to sit out. I don't think it could happen. It seems highly unlikely. So it feels like nobody would want to mess with that. Like good example of this. Any player in the Schmoedown, anybody who's currently playing in the Schmoedown, save like 2, 3, maybe, I can get their number or their email, right? Like I'm able to ask Christian or someone that I know. Because we're in the same sport, we're in the same business. It's not like inappropriate. I can't ask for Jericho's number. Hey, Roxy, can I get Jericho's number? I want to talk to him about free agency. Like, not only would she say that's my player, fuck off, but also it would be inappropriate. He's a giant celebrity. You don't give out the number of a celebrity to somebody who doesn't know them. You just don't do that. You don't really give out their email or any form of contact. That's just not what you do. So even if a manager, and I think it's the same with most of the managers, I think even if a manager wanted to talk to Kevin Smith or Chris Jericho, I don't even know if they'd be able to. That's because that's just the reality of the situation that we're in. So it seems unlikely that either Jericho or Smith are retained by Coy or by Roxy. It seems like they'll be drafted. It's a little bit murky because it does mean, like, do those players just not get drafted? Are those just free agent signings? And then the question is, how good is Kevin Smith? Jericho seems to be good, but obviously he's 0-2. You wonder, does he bounce back and have a great showing this year? Smith seems like he might actually be quite good. I'm not totally sure. He might have more limited knowledge, but it seems like Kevin Smith might actually be pretty good. So I think that's what's going to happen with those guys. But again, we'll talk about more of this stuff on Backstage this week as well. A quick reminder here before we get out of here in just a minute. I am going to be playing John Lestrina, callsign #Ladies Night, a general in the Action Army, a diamond patron here in the Nerds and Suits Nerd Network. Thank you so much, my friends. Salute and a tie straighten. I'll be playing against John Lestrina at 6:15 Pacific Standard Time. That's a private match. We don't stream these. We just do them in Blue Jeans. But every month, I select one of the random $25 patrons, and I do a 5-round head-to-head championship match curated by the Nerds of the Nerd Network. I've got Nikki, I got Megs, I got the whole crew putting questions together, all in there. So that's going to be really exciting. 6:15 Wednesday. If any of you guys have ever considered becoming a patron, if it's something that you guys want to do, it's a good time to do it. I'm also going to be doing these one-on-one sessions, which I'm really excited about. So 15 minutes for all diamond patrons. Anybody above a diamond, I'll be doing 30 minutes one-on-one. And remember, that's going to be on the Sunday following Christmas, as well as the Tuesday and the Wednesday night following Christmas. So I'll be finding time to meet with all you guys one-on-one, which I'm really hyped on. So thank you guys so much for following along and making that happen with me. Call sign #Ladies Night in here, giving me a hard time. I want you at your best, he says. Which, look, Listerina, you're going to get me at my best. You're going to get me at my best, man. I think I gave my slices to Megs. Megs, I gave you my slices, right? I hope so. I think I did. Who's on Backstage tomorrow, says Devon Shu Sinha. It's going to be me and Rachel. We're going to be doing a spectacular recap. So, we kind of wanted to keep the show a little bit more, personal with the two of us so that it didn't get over overdone. So yeah, real excited about that. That should be a lot of fun. I'm just going to check in here and make sure I didn't miss any other Streamlabs or super chats as well. Any other comments that I wanted to share? Let's see. Oh, so Monty looks like he's trying to do Inner Geekdom. You're going to be submitting for Inner Geekdom, huh, Monty? Can't wait to see that. I hope you get in. Kelly says, serious props to Megs. Yeah, big shout to you. That's the last thing I wanted to do here before we got out of here tonight, is I wanted to pull up really quickly a couple messages that I got from some of the nerds in suits here. I interact with you guys, a bunch of you on a day-to-day basis every Monday. And I'll get updates from some of you. I know I shouted this out last week, Alex, but I read this today and I thought this was really cool. So I just wanted to shout out your progress. So Alex earlier today let me know. Alex finally gave. Sorry, wait. So Alex passed all of her classes. Never passed an online class before, and this year passed all 5 while working 3 jobs, being a single mom. Honestly, can say I'm proud of myself, and I've never been able to say that 100%. That is unbelievable. That's so much work. It's so much cool stuff you're doing, and I'm very proud of you for that. So I wanted to shout you out. I think it's really awesome. So many of you guys are doing really great stuff. You're letting me know that you've got workout goals that you're trying to hit. Some of you are trying to do spiritual goals. Some of you are even talking about, maybe wanting to work on some of your own, your personal stuff, whether it's the way that you interact with people or, kind of just the way that you interact in the world. And I think that's terrific. I think it's very admirable to think about that stuff. You can always grow. You can always get better. You can always try to, you can try to better yourself. And I'm trying to do the same thing. So I'm proud of any of you that are doing that. And if any of you have something like that you want to go over with me, feel free to let me know. Some of you guys have already communicated that you're interested in the one-on-ones here on Patreon. You've sent me a private message. If you heard it tonight, it was something that you do want to do, send me a message and let me know so that I absolutely know that you are interested, because I need to be able to allot enough time and make sure that I'm ready. But in any case, guys, I am going to get out of here. Thank you so much for watching another episode of Nerds in Suits Live. A big time salute. You guys kick butt. I can't wait to see what we do next. And I will be back. I'll be playing Magic right now, 7:30, as I do every single weekend on Twitch with Alex. So I'm going to go and get my deck ready for that. And then, yeah, all the other fun stuff going on, this week and everything else. So you guys are great. Big salute. I love you all. We'll see you guys on Wednesday at 6:15 when I kick the shit out of John Lestrina in movie trivia. All right, guys, salute, and I will see you all very soon. Oh, wait a minute. Wait. Actually, before I go, I think I recall. Is this true? I thought that I remember missing a super chat last show. It's not in here. Maybe it was on. It could have been on Action. Might have been on Action. All right. Anyway, guys, thank you and a big salute. I'll see you all very soon.